Hi everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Budapest in Central Europe. Today, IELTS Task 2 writing for the academic IELTS. Materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and for general version of the exam, visit us at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have loads of fantastic materials for you to help you improve your band scores and get those nice high band scores. There is a section specifically for writing task 2, essay structure, step-by-step, sentence-by-sentence explanations. And those websites, just really quickly, they look like this. This is our academic IELTS website. Click that big red button to join it. Get the premium package. This is our general IELTS website here. Click that red button to join it. Hi, Francesco. Hi, Rahul. Good to see our members joining in. And members, good news. We have more members chat classes coming up starting next week on Thursday. So from next week, you'll have members chat classes Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So you get 3 members chat classes. Everybody else who's watching, you get 4 regular classes instead of 3. So you'll get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll show you the schedule, what it looks like. So this is next week. On the 10th, we have an Everyone Welcome class, speaking part 1, 15 to 16 o'clock Central European time. Then on the 11th, 13:30 to 14:30, you get a members chat class, and then followed by an everyone chat class for reading strategies. By the way, students, this schedule is on our community board, so you can check it out on the community board as well. So you can see the schedule there and put it in your Google Calendar so you can keep up with the classes. As well, members, we'll have some special emojis for you as well and some new perks coming up. So great time to be a member. All right, let's get to our IELTS writing task 2. Oh, just real quick, if somebody has a question about our products, IELTS, or these live classes, just email me, Adrian, A-D-R-I-N, at aehelp.com. Francesco, I see you have a question. Can you use idiomatic expressions like call it a day or it's not rocket science during the speaking test? Yes, Francesco, you can use idiomatic expressions in the speaking. However, be very, very, very careful. If you use an idiomatic correction, if you use an idiom correctly, Francesco, you can get a little bit of a maybe better score for natural language. But if you use an idiom incorrectly, in the wrong way, that will drop your score significantly, because using an idiom in the wrong way is really confusing for a listener. So you have to be very careful. I usually advise students to stay away from idioms in the speaking. The only time to use it is if you're 1,000% sure that you're using it correctly. Syed, no, definitely not in the academic. So Syed Yassar can use idioms in the writing. No, not in the academic. Do not use idioms in the academic task 1 or task 2. Hi, Amardeep. Good to see you joining in on class as well. Okay, everyone, let's take a look at the question for today. This is what we will be discussing here. So IELTS writing task 2. By the way, everyone who's watching, the question is in the stream description. So check that out below if you can't see it. So IELTS writing task 2, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Evaluate the success or failure of the World Bank's approach to promoting water privatization in the global south. Give examples and explanations to support your opinion. This question was given by one of our members. I think maybe it was Baljit, or maybe it was Syed. Yasar, did you give me that question for today? Anyway, one of our members sent this question in. They said, hey, what's going on there? It's a little bit confusing. Sometimes in the IELTS, especially in the academic IELTS, you can get a task 2 question that's off the beaten path. There's an idiom for you, Francesco. So you can get a task 2 question that's off the beaten path. It means that... oh, Rahul, it was you. Thank you for... thought I was going crazy there. Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, it was Rahul who sent this question. So you can get these questions that, you know, students look at and they go, really? They want me to answer that question? Yes, they do. Okay. Again, remember, IELTS is a thinking exam. And you might not get a question like this, but something similar where you really have to use your critical analytical thinking to give a correct response. Even if you have good English skills, good English writing skills, you have to have clever thinking as well. Okay? So it looks scary at first. It looks confusing. It looks tricky. But when you dissect it, when you take it apart and pay attention, you can figure out what's going on. And remember, IELTS is not testing your lexical knowledge. That means it's not testing your knowledge of the World Bank, or it's not testing your knowledge of water privatization so much, but it's testing more the way that you can explain what you think is going on. So let's do that. So here, students, I'm sure you've realized you have to paraphrase this. So you have to paraphrase this question to make sure that you are on the right track. So write this question again in your own words. I'm going to say, or I'm going to write this in my words, and then let's see if we match up, okay? So be very careful here. So assess the positive or negative outcomes of the International Financial Institute's initiative to encouraging the ownership of water in the southern hemisphere. Okay, of course I'm teaching you some vocabulary here as well, students. So, but just do your best in your own words, okay? So this is how I've paraphrased it. Assess the positive or negative outcomes of the International Financial Institute's initiative to encourage ownership. Just let me do a little correction there. To encourage ownership of water in the southern hemisphere. Okay. So that's what I paraphrased. Now, here, maybe you're still thinking, what are we talking about? What does that mean? So what does it mean, privatization and this development according to the World Bank's encouragement of this water privatization? So what does that actually mean? What do you think the question is asking you? Okay. Break it down. All right. So if you have a difficult question, break it down, okay, into its parts. So what is a part of this question that you need to think about? So what would be one part of this question that you have to understand? So I want to try to teach you to fish here. Again, members, my goal here is to empower your thinking so you can understand such a question in the future. Okay? Rahul says, determine the consequences or results of water privatization in the global south, trusted up by the World Bank. No, Rahul, that's not an accurate paraphrase. You're asking a different question than what's there. Francesco Bernetti says, give your opinion about the results of the World Bank decision concerning the private usage of water in the southern part of the world. Francesco, you're also a little bit off mark. Begzod says, check both the positive or negative ending of the World Bank's way to control water supply to their own benefit in the global south. Okay, Begzod, same thing. You're off as well. That's what I mean. This is a tricky question if you're not very careful about it. So the best step here is to break it into its parts. So break it down into components, okay? What is one component of this question? Okay, let's go back to the original question for this. So let's look at not my paraphrase, but the original question to break it into its components. Okay, so evaluate the success or failure of the World Bank's approach to promoting water privatization in the global south. Okay. What's the question that we want to ask here? Okay, this is what you should be doing, students. So when I put it out like that, you're probably going, oh, okay, that's starting to make more sense. So when you have something like this, break it down into its components. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about water privatization. What is water privatization? Let's answer that question first, okay? Then, what is the World Bank's approach to promoting this? Right? Because it's evaluate the World Bank's approach to promoting water privatization. So what is the World Bank's approach to promoting this? Okay? And then, is it a success or is it a failure? So those are the three clear questions that we can break out from this question here. So let's break it into these components. Again, remember this very important tip, students, that you need to break a tough question into components, understand the components, and then put it together. You will understand the question. Okay? So what is water privatization? What does that mean? In this situation, so in the southern hemisphere, of course, let's not forget it's the southern part of the world, like South America, Africa, so the southern part. So Rahul says maybe the private company contributes money under the provision of the government. Water privatization means, keep it simple, privatization means ownership to private individuals, right? You have either public ownership, which means it's owned by all of society, the government, or you have private ownership. Private ownership means it's owned by a corporation or a company. Step by step, students, just step by step, right? So water privatization means giving control of water resources and sale and infrastructure, right? Okay, so that's what it means. All right, private ownership. So what is water privatization? It means giving control of water resources, infrastructure like pipes, selling the water, management of that to private companies. Okay, that's what it means. Again, students, keep your thoughts simple here. Keep it simple. Okay. What do you think? Okay, so keep it simple. What do you think the World Bank's approach is to promoting this? Okay, so what is the World Bank's approach to promoting companies building infrastructure, controlling resources, managing them, selling them? So what is the World Bank's approach to doing this? Just think about any bank. So what do you think this bank is doing for these companies to go into countries in the south like Congo, like Peru, and empower these companies to gain control of these water resources, build the aqueducts, the pipes, bottle the water, sell the water in stores, manage these companies. So what is the bank doing? What do you think? Again, keep it simple. So I want to develop your logical thinking here. Okay, it was a good question, Rahul. It looks really tricky, Rahul, at first, but if you go through the steps and think about it step by step, it will make sense. Okay, so I would not be surprised if a similar type of Task 2 question came up on the IELTS exam. Okay, so I know what privatization is. It means to give control to a private company. So water privatization means give control of water to private companies. What is the World Bank's approach to promoting this? Yes, Francesco, very good. Okay, you have a question mark because you're like, I'm not sure, but you're right. Okay, that's exactly what a bank does, right? Banks loan money, give incentives to companies for taking on this kind of business. Very good, Francesco. Right, Bagzod, there you go, giving money. Thank you. I knew you had it. I knew it was in your mind. You just had to dig deep and go, wait, what? Okay, World Bank. Oh, okay, I get it. We're going to give them money so that companies do this. Sure. Okay. Very good. So what is the World Bank's approach to promoting this? They give loans, right? That's when you give a bank gives money. So they give loans and other types of monetary support, maybe even grants. So loans and grants, right? People don't have to pay back. So they give loans and grants and other types of monetary support, as well as incentives for companies to go into the water business. Okay, why? So let's go one step further here. Why? Why would the World Bank do that? So why would the World Bank give different kinds of loans and grants and incentives for companies to go into the water business, especially in African countries or in South American countries? Why? Why would they do that? Bagzod, very good. Yeah, so to make water available and make it so that people have enough water, right? Water is very important for human life and for development. And so the World Bank wants global development for the purpose of sustenance and global development. The World Bank wants countries in the South to have sufficient water supply. Right. Okay, good. So now we're starting to figure this out now. We're cooking, as they say in English. Yeah, it can provide energy as well, like electricity, hydro power dams. Yeah. To provide drinking water, which is a basic human need. Rahul, it's not a human right, it's a human need. Unfortunately, it's not possible everywhere. Okay, and so the next question is it a success or is it a failure? So the World Bank's project to privatize water in the Southern Hemisphere, according to what we just discussed, is it a success or is it a failure? This is up to you. And now maybe some of you are thinking, but wait a second, Adrian, if I get this question on IELTS, I don't know if it's a failure or success. Do people have water now in Africa, or are they still short on water? It doesn't matter. Just make a decision as long as you can argue it. Okay? So if you think it's a success, if you think there are lots of companies that are now emerging and building infrastructure, sure. Okay? If you think it's a failure, if you're like, nope, there's still a lot of people without water in the Southern Hemisphere, and the companies aren't taking advantage of these offers, then say, no, it's not, right? So make a decision. Make a decision. Think about, can I support it? Can I not? And then we can develop the thesis. So what do you think? Is it a success or is it a failure? Do many countries now in Africa, in certain parts of Asia, in South America, have sufficient amounts of water because companies are being developed that are being funded by the World Bank? Tell me your opinion. What do you think, members? Okay, Syed says it's a failure. Okay, let's go with failure. So Francesco says, I think it's a failure as well. Okay, so now our final and very important question here is why? Why is it a failure? Okay. Rahul says, I think it's a success in Asia, but a failure in Africa. Rahul, you could write the essay that way, okay? So if you think it's both a positive and a negative, if you know that it's a positive in Asia and a failure in Africa, you could write the essay that way. We're not going to do that approach right now, but you could. You could do one body paragraph of, it has been a success in Asia, but it has been a failure in Africa. Okay. However, let's go with failure. Let's go with why. So why is it a failure? Okay. Cost of water is too expensive? Sure. All right. So that's 1 point. And give me another one. Okay. Because there's still scarcity in many regions. Scarcity, nice use of words there, or vocabulary. It means there's a lack of, there's not enough. So, good vocabulary. Okay, fantastic. There you go. Your thesis points. Okay, so really good. Which one should be first paragraph? Which one should be second paragraph? So, should cost of water is too expensive be the first body paragraph? Or should scarcity be the first body paragraph? Which one's better to put as my first body paragraph, members? What do you think? Logically, what does your logic tell you? Put this one as my body paragraph 1 or this one as my body paragraph? No positive here. So Rahul, I'm not doing positive, negative. I'm just doing failure with 2 points. Okay. I would probably go with scarcity first. Okay, so I would go with because there is still scarcity in many regions first, and then I would talk about and it's more expensive. Why? Because if I think about it, so think about the logic. So this is my argument. We could argue this. I'm not perfect, so I could be wrong, but I would say so information about there is still a lack of water in many regions. And then I would go as well in places where companies have established water infrastructure, the supply is too expensive. Okay, so in my mind, here's my logic, is that there's still many places in the world that don't have water, even in places which do have companies supplying water. The water is often too expensive. Okay, so that's how I would structure it. So that's why I would talk about scarcity in body paragraph 1, and it's too expensive in many regions as body paragraph 2. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, members, next important step here is thesis statement. So give me your thesis statement. This is my $1 million question or request to you, is write a good thesis that shows the IELTS examiner that you understood this question clearly and you're able to give a good answer. Rahul, remember what I said, we're not doing positive and negative, we're just doing failure. So my argument is that this has been a failure for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it's still not available in many, water is still not available in many countries in the South. Reason number 2 is that it's really expensive. Remember the question, Rahul, okay? Evaluate the success or failure, not and failure, okay? It's one or the other. Be really careful with that coordinating conjunction. Or and are very different words, okay? So here we're saying it's a failure. So the World Bank's approach to promoting water privatization is a failure in the global South because there's a lack of companies and thereby a lack of supply. As well, companies which have been financed are poorly organized and demanding too much money. So those are the elements of what we're saying here. Okay, does that make sense, members? So is it clear now what we're talking about? Hopefully. Okay, planning here when you get a question like this is really, really important. Okay. All right, Rahul, thank you for confirming that you got me. Okay, students, so write your thesis statement. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to write my thesis while you write your thesis, and then we'll compare, okay, to make sure that it makes sense. Once you have your thesis, if it's a good thesis, you can kind of wipe the sweat off your forehead and go, whew, all right, I got it now. I got the right thesis, okay? Begzad says, sir, can I say writing, instead of writing scarcity, is it also true to mention less agriculture? Agriculture is farming, Begzad, so I think you're bringing in a different idea, even though water is used for farming. You have to be careful how you bring that into this essay, okay? You don't want to go off topic, so careful about that. Okay, so members, here we go, thesis statement. Okay, I'm going to write my thesis statement. I'll wait for yours as well. Okay. Here we go. Although the World Bank has been strongly encouraging the private development of water supply in the South, this initiative is a failure because there is still a lack of supply and a expensive, let me try to parallel grammar here, students, is very important. So I can't just write and it's expensive, because it's expensive is not parallel grammar with there is a lack of supply. So I can write it first like this, and it is expensive, or and water is expensive. So I can write it like that, and then I can figure out how to parallel that grammar after. So sometimes it's easier to parallel with the second point. Like that. Okay. So although the World Bank has been strongly encouraging the private development of water supply in the South, this initiative is a failure because water is lacking and expensive in expensive in many regions. Okay, so that is my thesis statement. Let's see what you've come up with. So Syed says water privatization is a failure. You don't need to use the word approach, Syed, because privatization includes the idea of approach. So water privatization is a failure in the global South because it is too expensive and many regions still face scarcity. Okay, Syed, good. All right. Parallel grammar. It's too expensive and scarce. Okay. That's what I would say. So even simpler, accurate, clear, parallel grammar. Water privatization is a failure in the global South because it is too expensive and scarce. Okay. Too expensive and scarce. So keep it simple. And I would switch it around and say too scarce and expensive. So scarce first, Syed, expensive second, because body paragraph 1 is about scarce, so not enough, and body paragraph 2 is about expensive. Okay, Begzad says, although the World Bank might be providing companies with funds, I do believe that it is mainly a failure in the Southern Hemisphere, as cost of water is still high and many regions suffer from shortage. Couple corrections there, Begzad, but otherwise it was quite good. All right. Francesco says, I strongly think that the results of the World Bank involvement in privatization in the water in the Southern Hemisphere are negative since it is still scarce. Furthermore, it is expensive. Okay, you can, Francesco, you don't need a period after scarce, just a semicolon, furthermore, comma, it is expensive. Okay. Aigul. World Bank's attempt to make water private in the southern countries cannot succeed as it is, hasn't yet succeeded. So Aigul, it's not can't, okay? It's hasn't yet. So has not yet succeeded. Let's not use contractions. It's an academic essay, Aigul. So the World Bank's attempt to encourage water privatization in the southern countries has not succeeded as it is still scarce and expensive. Very nice in that way, Aigul. Okay, that works. Okay, students, so we are now on the right track. Is everybody now confident on what this essay should be about and how to develop it? So are all the members clear on that? Let me know. So do you have a good idea now of, okay, I kind of get what I need to write about now? Syed, yes, sir. Great, thank you. Rahul, it was your question originally. Is it clear now, Rahul, what you need to do here? Okay, then let's start the introduction. Of course, starting with the hook. Hook should focus on the topic, some of the controlling idea. Francesco, it's clear. Yes, it is. Okay. Rahul, I didn't see your thesis, but I see it now, so I'll take a look at it. It's very important. So, although water privatization is being promoted by the World Bank globally, I believe due to scarcity and cost, the South Hemisphere has not been a success story. Rahul, you need a slight adjustment to make your thesis accurate, okay? One more time. Although, small w, water privatization is promoted by the World Bank globally, I believe that due to scarcity and high cost, or due to scarcity and cost, water or privatization in the South has not been a success. Good, Aigul. I see that you caught my correction and rewrote it in the chat. That's great. Syed is asking a good question. It's an important one, students. Syed saying, what is parallel grammar? What does that actually mean? Parallel grammar, Syed, means that when you're listing ideas or information in a sentence, then the grammar of each of those elements matches. Okay, so you see me doing that when I'm correcting students' thesis statements. So notice here my 2 points are lacking and expensive. They're both nouns. So is lacking, is expensive. So when I have a list of information, Syed, it has to be parallel grammar. What that means is, for example, if I have an adjective noun, then the next one also has to be an adjective noun. It can't suddenly be a verb. Okay, so you can't have an adjective noun and verb and noun and adjective. It's very awkward. Okay, I hope that makes sense, Syed. If it doesn't, send me an email and I'll send you a link where that's explained even more clearly. Okay. All right, students, write that hook. Okay, write that hook. So start that hook off. Okay, Syed, just one more quick point on that question. And for all of our viewers, if you want to get a band 7.5 or higher, you have to have parallel grammar. If you don't have good parallel grammar in your essay, you're jumping all over the place with your tenses. You have very randomly organized adjective, nouns, adverbs, verbs. That will drop your score below a 7.5. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, students, so hook. Hook is just an interesting statement. Catches your reader's attention, gets you focused, shows the reader that you have a good idea of what you're talking about. So go ahead, write your hook. I will do the same. The World Bank has been pushing strongly over the past 50 years to make water available to all people. Okay, so that's my hook. The World Bank has been pushing strongly over the past 50 years to make water available to all people. Okay. that gets the attention of my reader. Hopefully that makes it clear for the examiner that I know I'm talking about the World Bank's project or initiative to encourage privatization. I'm going to explain that in my background here. All right. Rahul says water privatization is an essential approach for water utility and sanitation in the South, which is promoted by the World Bank. Rahul, that's a little bit much for the hook. You want to keep the hook a little bit simpler so you're not making any mistakes and you're just catching the reader's attention. Okay? A little bit simpler, Rahul. Begzod says these days, with the help of the World Bank's support, I think is better than encouragement, Begzod. Support, many countries are trying to balance water supply. Sure, I think, Begzod, also you're kind of overreaching for the hook. You're going into the background a little bit, but it's not bad, okay? And then you're continuing with the explanation. So, Begzod, what you have there in the next comment is your background. So that is the importance of this essay, right? The usage of water has significantly increased in the last century with growing agriculture and populations. Okay, so that's where you're going with that. Okay, so a little simpler. Yeah, work on it. Good job, students. Okay, so now comes the background. And that includes, as you know, definitions and importance. Okay, so here, what we can do is what we talked about, right? And this is in our planning. So we have this in our plans. So remember when we talked about what is the World Bank's approach for promoting this? And we figured out, well, okay, what do banks do? Banks lend money or give money for certain projects. So they give loans and grants and other type of support to companies to build water infrastructure like sanitation and water systems, aqueducts, right? So that's the background. Why? Well, because of what Begzod said, that there is a greater demand for water, fresh water, as populations grow and farming increases and industry increases, right? So that goes into the background for this, okay? So now I don't want to write World Bank in an essay like this again and again. So there's a really cool trick that you can use for good writing in academics, which is create an acronym for a word or a set of words that you're going to commonly use right at the very beginning, the first time you use it. So here, the World Bank, I'm just going to create an acronym of WB, and it's going to be with brackets. I don't want to rewrite World Bank again and again and again. That's just going to take up too much time, and it's not necessary. So the World Bank, WB, has been pushing strongly over the past 50 years to make water available to all people. The WB provides tens of millions of dollars in loans and grants to companies which invest their efforts to develop water supply and infrastructure, especially in the southern hemisphere. As human populations, industry, and agriculture expand, there is an ever increasing need for fresh water supply. Okay, that's the importance of the question. Okay. So Baghdad's saying something very similar. So he says the usage of water has significantly increased in the last century. As a result of this upward trend, many countries worldwide lack water. However, good. Okay, that works. Syed, I see you have a new hook. Water privatization is a good approach to solve global need, but it needs to be executed successfully. Okay, Syed, careful with that hook, because now you're giving me an argument that it needs to be executed successfully. That's not something we're going to discuss so much right now. We're going to discuss about whether or not the World Bank is playing their part successfully for this execution. So careful not to go off. I mean, it's not bad, Syed, but you just have to be very careful with it. Okay? So now comes my thesis. And all I need to do is take the thesis that I've developed up here and put it in underneath at the end of my introduction. Okay, so now I have my introductory paragraph, and now I know what I'm doing and I know where I'm going with it. Okay? Is it clear so far, members? Is it clear what I've done, how I developed this, and what I wrote? So let's read this together. The World Bank, WB, has been pushing strongly over the past 50 years to make water available to all people. The WB provides tens of millions of dollars in loans and grants to companies which invest their efforts to develop water supply and infrastructure, especially in the southern hemisphere. As human populations, industry, and agriculture expand, there is an ever-increasing need for fresh water supply. Although the World Bank has been strongly encouraging the private development of water supply in the South, this initiative is a failure because water is lacking or expensive in many regions today. Okay, so that is my introductory paragraph, and that's of course a Band 9 level introductory paragraph. Now with this question, it's unfortunately very easy to get a low band score, because if you don't have this idea, if you cannot present something similar, it can be with easier vocabulary, it can be with easier grammar, but you have to present this idea. If you're not presenting this idea, you're not answering the question accurately, and unfortunately that will drop your score. So remember, academic IELTS is more than just a test of your English. It's a test of your thinking for academic purpose. Okay? All right. Rahul says, clear, sir. Good. Siaz says, sir, can we use paraphrasing as the background statement in some cases? Yeah, absolutely, Siad. Yeah. So they're very good questions, Siad, and it's very clever thinking. I've said that in previous classes. I don't think you were a member yet, but I did say that before, that the paraphrase of the question is often perfect for the background definition and importance of question. Okay? All right. Bagzad, I see your question as well. The usage of water has significantly increased in the last century. Bagzad, okay, so you've created a much simpler hook, but now you're too general. Okay? You still want to include at least an element of the topic controlling idea. So something about water privatization in the South, or the World Bank's efforts to privatize in the South. Okay, so Bagzad, the simplicity is there now, but now you're too general. So keep it simple but specific. Does that make sense, Bagzad? Simple with specific. That's how you get the higher band score. Okay, you want to be simple and specific, both together. All right. Okay, so body paragraph 1. What is that about? WB's failure because there is water scarcity. Okay, body paragraph 2. I'm just writing this because you know this now. Okay, so you know what's going on now. So body paragraph 1, World Bank's failure because there's water scarcity, not enough water development. Body paragraph 2, World Bank's failure because water is very expensive, unavailable, unavailable to many people. Okay, so that's your body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2. Okay, and it's the same steps, students. So topic sentence, explanation, example, connecting sentence. Okay, same thing for body paragraph 2. Topic sentence, explanation, example. You don't need the connecting sentence in that case, okay? And then conclusion. All right, in the conclusion, you want to have your main points plus argument plus message. Okay? That's what you want to include in the conclusion. Okay? Now, I can't remember. Somebody was asking me, can I just do the conclusion or explain more about the conclusion? It's kind of difficult to write the conclusion without having the body paragraphs, but I can. Okay? So I can write the conclusion without body paragraphs, all right? It's, of course, always better to develop your body paragraphs before your conclusion. But I think it was it you, Amardeep, that asked me? I think it was. Amardeep said, can you please write a conclusion? The conclusion is kind of an inverse of your introduction. So, Amardeep, just remember your main points, your argument, and your message, okay? What are my main points? My main points are that water is expensive and it's unavailable in many countries in the South. So what's my argument? That the World Bank is so far failing in the promotion of privatization. What's my message? That they need to try a different approach. Okay, so now I just need to put that into 2 or 3 sentences. Does that make sense, Amardeep? What I just said there? Okay, let me write it for you. Okay, hopefully it'll be more sensible. So, clearly, the cost of water is too high in many countries. And even where water supply is available, it is too expensive. Okay? As a result of this, WB's project to privatize water in the South is an utter failure. It is time that this approach is re-evaluated and other options are considered. Okay, so what I just did there, Amardeep, is exactly what I told you. So main points, argument, message. So in conclusion, the cost of water is still too high in many countries, okay? IELTS likes to see in conclusion, students, so definitely put it in. Okay, university professors don't like to see it, but IELTS does, so put it in there. In conclusion, the cost of water is still too high in many countries, and even where water supply is available, it is too expensive. As a result of this, WB's project to privatize water in the South is an utter failure. It is time that this approach is reevaluated and other options are considered. So that, Amardeep, is my conclusion, okay, without having the body paragraphs. And thanks for asking for that, Amardeep. So that's what you get, members. I mean, you get to ask me questions. You get to reach for clarity. That's one of the advantages of being a member, is that I can help you out with these specific questions. It works for me as well, okay? So we have the introduction here, we have the conclusion, but we're missing the body paragraphs. So the body paragraphs, members, I will leave to you for homework, okay? I know I still owe you 1 or 2 Task 2 essay samples for the community board. I will finish those. I will get those up sooner than later. I'm just involved in a lot of projects myself. So don't fret, I haven't forgotten. Make sure to try, not just try, but do finish these body paragraphs for this essay, okay? All right. Body paragraph 1, not BP 1 blood equals blood pressure 1, Amardeep, but thanks for the laugh. Just keep calm, keep focused, you'll do fine. Okay, students. Thank you for your support, members. Again, starting from next week, more members classes. You can send me, Francesco, just the 2 body paragraphs. You don't have to send me the entire essay. Okay, you can just send me the 2 body paragraphs. It's fine. In fact, just send me the 2 body paragraphs, and then I'll evaluate what band score that is, of course, without the introduction and the conclusion. Okay. Begzod, I don't know where your topic sentence is. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, I'll read it before we conclude. So millions of people who are living in the southern part of the globe are still lacking water supply, as the companies supported by the World Bank do not work efficiently. Begzod, that is a perfect Band 9 topic sentence. You have done a great job with that topic sentence, Begzod. I see why you wanted me to read it. So now you just need to continue with your explanation, but that's perfect. All right. Rahul, thank you for this question today. It was exciting. It was interesting for me to teach a more challenging question like this to the members. Thank you, viewers, who stuck it out, even if you couldn't chat. I'm sure, or I'm hoping, you got value from this question. And that's it for me for today. We will continue with classes on Wednesday the 10th at 15 o'clock Central European Time. Okay? Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone. I look forward to teaching you come next week. Have a nice rest. Keep up your studies. Work hard. Remember, you have beautiful, brilliant minds on top of your shoulders. Use it for the betterment of yourself and the world around you. Bye for now, everyone.